Hello everyone, I hope you guys are doing well and your studies are going in full swing. Now this video is for all the students who are giving their CFA level 1 or level 2 exams which are due in just about a month's time. So in today's video we are going to discuss your last 30 days strategy on how many hours do you have, how do you allocate those hours, how do you manage the practice questions and mock tests, and most importantly the big daddy, ethics, how does that get managed in the last 30 days. So watch this till the end and like and share if you find this to be helpful. Okay, so over here, when you look at your last 30 days, I'll assume that you will be working and you'll get your study leave for around 2, and if you're lucky enough, for around 3 weeks. So in those 2 to 3 weeks, you will probably have to pull in anywhere of around 10 hours average for your preparations. So that will give you a good 150 clean hours. And in the other 15 odd days, including weekends on an average, if you can pull up 3 to 4 hours, that will leave you with another 50 to 60 to 70 hours. And thereby, I would say that you have around 200 to 250 hours, depending on how many weeks of study leave you have at the end for the preparation. And this is your entire pie. How do you cut this in the most efficient way is what we are going to discuss. So the last 200 to 250 hours, which on its own, to be honest, are sufficient. Like the CFA Institute mandates that anywhere between 300 hours on an average are needed for your overall CFA prep. So even if you're a little late in your studies, don't worry. If you use this 30 days properly, you are still in a good enough shape to write for the CFA exams. So what I've done is we have tried to divide this discussion into 2 parts. First, for students who have completed all subjects from, let us say, self or from a material like a Kaplan, Schweitzer, Wiley, whatever, or any test prep provider that you have. Or some students who have done few of the subjects and few of them are remaining. So let me assume around out of the 10 subjects, you have done around 6 of them and around 4 of them are remaining. So these are the 2 basket of students who I would divide this. Now, when I look at the number of hours, practice questions, mock test, etc. First, if you focus on the students who have completed all subjects, you are in a good enough shape. And when you divide your time, I would say that for your concept revision, right now, you will give around 80 to 100 hours in totality. That leaves you with approximately 8 to 10 hours per subject. When you look at ethics, I would strongly recommend that ethics is a subject that you invest time daily, maybe 1 to 1.5 hours on a daily basis. Refer, let's say, a few standards, their application, their examples, and you keep on referring that on a daily basis, because doing ethics at one go, at one stretch, can become difficult in your revision. So do ethics on a daily basis and do practice questions on a daily basis. So for the remaining 9 subjects that you have, I would say you have around 8 to 10 hours per subject. Some of them might take more time, like maybe a fixed income or maybe an FSA or a quants might take more time, whereas something like an alternative investments might take relatively lesser time. So I would say on an average, you put around 8 to 10 hours for revising. And if you can just touch upon this 2 times, let us say the first revision taking around 60% of the time and the second revision taking around another 40% of the time, you are in a fairly good shape. Now, when you look at practice questions, I would say most important part in these 30 days is doing more and more practice questions. So the source over here would be from your test prep book that you have. Over and above that, you can refer additional practice questions from the CFA ecosystem. If you have not done that, remember the level of the questions in the CFA ecosystem is sometimes a notch higher. So once you have done a proper revision, doing that and taking your knowledge to the next level is quite important. Again, you can mark out questions where you face difficulty. And even if you're doing, let's say, something like a Schweitzer, they would have a separate booklet for practice questions. So ensure you dedicate an equivalent amount of time to the revision as well as to the practice questions. So when I'm doing a particular subject, I would say on an average 8 to 10 hours per paper on the concept revision and around 8 to 10 hours again on the practice questions. Now, when I say practice questions, I don't include the mock test over here. For you, I would suggest that you give 4 mock tests. Let's say you have the last 30 days, that's approximately 4 weeks. And hence, if you can phase out one mock test a week. That would be of great help. Now you can plan it accordingly. Even if you don't have time and you go to around 3 mock tests, that should be fine. But doing 1 mock test a week should be fine. Your first mock test score may range around in the 50s or so. Try to reach around 60s or 70s. That should be your ideal goal. When you give a mock test, after that, trying to analyze where you made a mistake, which are the areas where you kind of faced a difficulty, is very important, so that when you are doing the subsequent revisions, those are the problem areas where you need a detailed review. Like for example, if alternative investments is going reasonably well, in the subsequent readings you don't need to refer different practice questions from different materials. Well, you are in a reasonably good shape after the mock test. However, if you are facing some difficulty in a topic, let's say like fixed income, then it is more important that you spend more time doing more practice questions. So analyzing how you're performing on the mock test is very important, more than the score and everything else. When you're looking at the mock test, again, in the subsequent mock test, in the initial mock test, take your time. In the subsequent, in the last 1 or 2 mock tests that you're writing, ensure that you give around 1.5 minutes per MCQ for the CFA level 1 and around 3 minutes per MCQ on the CFA level 2. So this would be your overall breakup when you look at students who have completed all subjects. Now, if you have completed a few of the subjects and few of them are remaining, again, don't think of, unless you have the entire course remaining altogether, I would say don't really think of deferring your attempt and going into a different tangent. If you have decided and everything is in place, go for it. You have enough time to give it your best shot and you will clear. So over here, you'll have to allocate a little more time on your concept reading. So I would have given more time for revision, because whereas it takes 80 to 100 hours to revise, maybe if you have around 2 or 3 subjects remaining, those subjects will eat up around 30 to 40 hours of your time. So you will have to dedicate those 30-40 hours on an average for completing the subjects that are pending and then going on into a similar schedule. Now, where will we remove the time? Well, you will have to revise again for things to settle in your mind. So you will still need maybe around I would say 60 to 80 hours at least for your revision, but a similar 60 to 80 hours for practice. So that's fine. You will kind of dedicate the 20 plus 20 hours that are for your revision and practice questions into the subjects that are remaining, and still with 60 to 80 hours, I'm saying you're on an average having around 6 to 8 hours to revise per subject. And remember, this is not like a written exam, at least on level 1 and level 2, unlike a CA or a CMA exam where you need to remember everything. It's a concept based exam, and hence once you have read it once, the subsequent readings happen to be much more efficient and much more faster. So don't really say that how will we complete. You will be in a position to complete. Now you don't rush into a mock test. Now you will just do the mock test in the last 1 or 2 weeks. If you have subjects remaining, you first focus on completing your revision, and if possible, do kind of piecemeal mock tests. That is, you pick up 2 or 3 subjects, and for those 2 or 3 subjects, try to spend some time and write a test rather than doing the full mock test. The full mock test, I would say you can write 2 of them, and that too in the last 1 or 2 weeks. That will leave you around 10 to 15 hours. Try to write at least 1 of them in an exam simulated environment so that you can practice the timing. You can practice how you take it in the exam. Again, ethics is a heavyweight over here, and the more cases you practice on ethics, it is the better for you, and that should be helping you in your exam. Even while you're writing the exam, you ensure that you don't start with ethics, because you will not be 100% sure of your answer. You go into, let's say in the first session when ethics comes, you go to other chapters where you get a definitive answer that will be more suitable. Again, when you're doing your preparation for level 2, it also helps sometimes to do cases across different subjects, so that that entire case study across subjects you are able to clearly apply. Okay, so you do have enough time, and I'm sure you are going to study really well. Give it your best shot. Try to practice as many questions as possible, and while doing that, try to mark out the questions where you make a mistake, and in subsequent revisions just focus on that properly. Okay, so study well, study hard, and all the best for your exams. Good luck and take care.